We heard Kevin Hassett there allude to high wage growth, and I'm not sure if you view the wage growth numbers today of 3.4% as being that high on a relative basis, at least relative to recent years, and especially considering where inflation is. Do you take confidence in this labor market from the strong headline number in terms of thinking of the overall economy, knowing that with the inflationary pressures still out there, there may be some headwinds on the ability to actually consume, even if you are employed?
Well, Kaylee, Joe, good to be with you. I think it is one of those moments where markets and analysts were clearly surprised by this number. I think, as Kevin Hassett pointed out, of all of the distribution of forecasts, this beat even the most optimistic forecasts. I'll pause and just say it's a little troubling to hear the administration keep focusing on native-born Americans and jobs for them rather than legal immigrants to this country, but I'll set that aside. I think they're enjoying a tailwind from corporate earnings that have been high, investment that has been good. I think you can sort of try and look through and separate out investment that is going into the AI boom versus things that may or may not be related to the president's tariffs and other immigration policies. But I think what is really remarkable is that all of this is happening in the midst of a continuing crisis in the Middle East, a Strait of Hormuz that looks like it's not opening anytime soon, and oil prices that seem to be high, but mostly taking this all in stride.
So I'm just curious how you're looking under the hood at this market. Christopher, it's great to see you. When we consider wages, for instance, you had 172,000 jobs, and it's probably going to mean something when we get right down to it here. The average hourly earnings in this report rose 3.4% from a year earlier. How much pressure could we see on wages rising to keep up with these trends?
I think that's what everybody's going to be looking for very closely. I mean, on the other side of it, you've got wages that are increasing costs to companies. On the other side of it, you have a consumer where sentiment has never been lower to rock bottom than it is currently, but that continues to spend, continues to keep those retail numbers fairly steady. Household balance sheets, depending on income levels, but overall are fairly solid. So I think this is a moment of relatively good news. Now the market is taking the good news as an opportunity to correct. It's certainly putting bond market projections into a second or a third look with these numbers. But I'll just add and say it probably makes Kevin Warsh's first Fed meeting in first few months a lot easier because the pressure is off him right now to make any cuts.
Well, but is the pressure going to potentially be on him to hike rates, or is the data not strong enough for that?
It's hard to know what the president's going to say, right? But the president seems like he's backed off of that, at least since he was sworn in. Most important, though, I think markets have looked through this and they want to know, is Kevin Warsh, regardless of what he has said in the past, to get this job, to get through his confirmation hearings, it would be implausible and utterly unrealistic to expect him to be able to bring about a Fed rate cut anytime soon, particularly given these numbers. And I think that takes a little pressure off of him to be able to turn around to the White House and say, look, I'm following the data. This is what we're doing. And it reassures markets that they're following the data.
I guess he'd have the markets on his side. But when you read Truth Social this morning, I don't know how comfortable Kevin Warsh should be. With a great jobs report, the president writes, like just announced, stocks should go up, not down. That's the way it was for 200 years. Growth does not mean inflation. How would you respond to the president?
Well, I've been a portfolio manager for a long time, and when you start saying, oh gosh, the markets are just wrong, you really need to look in the mirror again and ask yourself if you've really understood what's going on right now. The president has his own particular lens through all of this, of course, but I think if you are an investor today, you clearly see a price shock coming from the Middle East that may or may not last, but it's a shock that comes on top of inflationary pressures that we were still trying to wring out of the system. I don't think this is a moment for the Fed to hike right now in response to what's going on in the Middle East. It's really a moment to stand pat, to see how those dynamics play out, to see how the global balance of supply and demand really levels out in the next several months. even with the straits not opening again, or not opening much, because even if there's a deal, it's going to take a long time for them to reopen fully. And so if you're the Fed, this is a great time to be able to say, look, there's a lot going on right now. We're going to do nothing and get paid to do nothing.
Well, on the Strait of Hormuz, Christopher, you have a new op-ed in the New York Times, which is entitled, "The Strait of Hormuz is getting less dire by the day." You write that with every passing day, the world is learning to live without the Gulf's seaborne exports. You argue, obviously, that this hasn't been painless. But I guess my question to you is, have we been able to live with it thus far because there were inventories to draw from? Those are being depleted now. Could we not still reach a breaking point when there's no more inventory left?
Well, there will be breaking points in certain companies, in certain countries, and maybe even in certain regions of the world, or with certain parts of the hydrocarbon supply chain. You know, LNG is a much more difficult commodity to reorient different parts of the world. But you're seeing a variety of things, as markets always do, responding to those high oil prices. But you're seeing oil coming out through pipelines from the Gulf. You're seeing a little bit of shipping come through, tiny amount. You're also seeing a big response on the part of other producers in the U.S., in Mexico, in Kazakhstan, and Brazil. And you're seeing some demand destruction in the sense that there are some rationing measures underway in Asia. So all of those things put together help you. You know, we're not headed for some big cataclysmic crash right now. There will be, as I say, a lot more pain ahead, but a lot of what you're seeing right now is the world adjusting to what is unlikely to be a Gulf a Gulf supply anytime in the future. There's no way the world is going to rely on the Gulf anytime soon for 20% of its oil supply. So we're going to be looking elsewhere.